and he was very proud of you all. I want to thank the Tuttle family. Dick, Sally, Andrea, Anna, Cindy, Rags, for providing me and many of us here today the opportunity to have been part of Jeff's life. We will always cherish the adventures we shared with him. And I want to thank Jeff's family, Galena, Victoria, Ricky, and Anna. When most of us were folding up our tents, Jeff was just setting his up. Jeff was starting a new adventure, an adventure that would take him beyond any point he had ever experienced, an adventure second to none. A family. It was clear how important you were to him, how happy you made him, and how much he loved you.
Thanks, Bob. You captured it beautifully. But I think you took the Fifth Amendment about 4 times. Some want to see the attorneys pulling out their cards. That was great. I want to thank everyone who contributed to the memorial service today. I think it really summed up Jeff's life beautifully. A unique guy. What I'd like to do now, before I introduce Anna, who will be our final speaker, just let everybody know that the Tuttle family would like to invite everybody to walk down to the Protestant cemetery. And if you don't feel like walking, if you'd rather drive, because we're going to be walking down Main Street, down to Center Street, going up to Highway 49, turn right, go down to the turnpike, turn right, and that'll drop you right into the cemetery. So the service will continue at the cemetery. Then after that, we'll be back here. And we have some food and some drink and some more stories. We're going to have a slideshow. We had a little technical difficulty, so we're going to show that during the reception afterwards. So I hope you can make it back there. So please do make it back. If you choose to stay here, however, because we have to turn the room, we're going to have to ask you to kind of step outside so we can set up the room for the lunch. So now, it is my pleasure to introduce Anna Tuttle, who will conclude the ceremony. Thank you.
You're going to have to forgive me for stumbling through this. I have not stood on this stage in front of an audience since the Kitty Capers. I am Anna, Jeff's younger sister by 2 years. And I want to thank you for being here and thank you for loving my brother. As you've heard, Jeff was not an ordinary person. My brother was a sailor, an actor, an entomologist, a breeder of captive chameleons, a guitar picker, an illegal importer of Costa Rican poison frogs, an archaeologist, an alchemist, failed, and a lifelong student of human behavior. Because he was my big brother, I took direction from him. In childhood, I obeyed him with complete devotion. When we were a little older than Ricky and Anya, Jeff discovered an underground beehive in the front yard of our house in Auburn. It was capped by a large, flat slate rock he could not move by himself. He enlisted me to help him. I never thought to question him, and he promised me that if I stood utterly still, the bees would not sting me, because bees only sting moving people. We got into position, Jeff counted down, we heaved up the rock, and I did what I'd been told. I stood still and was blanketed by a swarm of stinging bees. Jeff ran like Jesse Owens. Some years later, we were still living in that older house with a steep staircase and a high balustrade when Jeff convinced me that in order to prove I wasn't a sissy, I should have a jumping off contest with him. He jumped from the balustrade at the top stair and landed on his feet. Following him, I jumped from the balustrade at the top stair and landed on my arm, which of course broke. In high school, we were probably 13 and 15. During some illicit after-dark activity, Jeff managed to light my hair on fire. When I realized my head was aglow and I panicked, patting out the flames, Jeff told me in that dry way he had, "Leave it alone, the fire looked really cool. It was giving me a halo." My extraordinary brother had a keen sense of the greater good. Jeff would not, however, direct me to reveal to you that he was also a poet, a scrupulous wordsmith who has written first-rate poetry for 30 years. If Jeff were with us today, he'd be sitting beside Phil with Ricky in his lap, making merciless jokes at my expense for doing what I'm about to do. I have appointed myself Jeff's literary executor, and I want to share a poem with you. Jeff's ironic wit, you all know this well, was unrelenting. But he could be simple and straightforward, and you know this too. Like his talented daughter Vika, Jeff didn't title his poems. His revisions suggest he never considered them finished. I will call this work in progress, Refuse the Pearly Gate. One thing I would pray, just give me until May. Denigrate what's behind the pearly gate. There's something that you do down here when April rolls around that beats St. Peter's streets of gold or any other ground. Snake lily twines among the branches winter has brought down. Hillsides glow with daisies, white meadow flowers foam. The leaves upon the old oak freshen to face another year. Eternity will have to wait. I'd rather be right here. Today, as we bury our brother in the April hills of the town he loved so much, I have a favor to ask. No, because you love Jeff, I have a commandment for you. On Jeff's behalf, and because you loved him, whenever you see these precious children Jeff has left behind, Fika and Ricky and Anya, I want you to let them know again and again and again that their daddy was thrilled by their absolute perfection. You hold them close, no matter where you find them, no matter how big they grow, at school, on the street, in the grocery store. You tell them their daddy knows how good and strong and smart and beautiful and perfect they are. You tell them their daddy sees their halos.